Hi there. Welcome to The Preventable, the podcast giving you a seat at the table with conversations about the intersection of alcohol, drugs, and mental health in everyday lives. Take a seat and join us.
Welcome to The Preventable. I know people get tired of hearing me say this, but I could not be here today. We could not do this podcast if it were not without the support of Hubbard Radio. They give us the space. They allow us to use the equipment. It's a pretty sweet deal. So we're very excited for them and just super grateful as always. Speaking of grateful, I am so grateful that my guest today took time out of her very busy schedule. This is like peak busy to come with us today. With me this afternoon is Addie Bond. She is the Executive Director of Sherwood Forest.
Nicole, thank you so much for having us today and allowing us to share our story a little bit as well.
Okay, so Sherwood Forest is a camp, right?
Kind of.
Okay.
Sherwood Forest is a year-round youth development agency anchored in a residential summer camp. So we've been around since 1937, serving kids from across the St. Louis region. Yeah, so way back when was Sherwood Forest founded, and we've been doing the same thing year after year after year, really anchoring kids in an opportunity in the summer, but then wrapping around services for them throughout the school year.
So I first heard of Sherwood Forest. So I'm from St. Louis. Growing up, never heard of Sherwood Forest.
We are a very well-kept secret.
Right. Well, I mean, so was Prevent+Ed, but never heard of Sherwood Forest. When I moved back here after college and after being gone for a little bit, I was a big sister through Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Awesome.
For like 8 years. I had the same little sister. And the highlight of her summer, year after year after year, was Sherwood Forest. And I would ask her, is it kind of like the Y? And she'd be like, no. Like, is it kind of like Boys and Girls Club? No. I'm like, what is it? And she's like, it's Sherwood Forest. I don't know how. It's Sherwood Forest. So, like, what makes you all unique besides the fact that my little sister just loved you all, right? Like, what is your differentiator?
Yeah. So one of the big things that makes Sherwood Forest different than a lot of summer camp programs is that our goal is to work with the kids year-round and wrap around the support services that they may need that maybe we identify in the summer, or maybe it's a way to help them prepare for the summer. So 80% of our kids qualify for free or reduced lunches. That means that most of the time, these kids would not have other summer opportunities. And we want our summer camp to look as much like traditional summer camp that kids pay $10,000, $12,000 a year to go to participate in. Our kids get to come for a longer period of time than most kids get to do summer camp. So our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders do 14 days at camp, and our 6th through 9th graders do 29 days in the summer. That means they're there for almost a month. Now, kids spend about 3 days getting into camp and about 3 days getting out of camp. And so when you do a week-long program, that can be great. It's very powerful.
When
and
you
impactful.
say that, do you mean like transitioning and transitioning?
Exactly.
Okay.
Kids transition in and transition out, and it takes them a couple days
To get acclimated and to like re-enter.
Exactly.
Or enter.
Or to prepare to go home, or to think about what they're going home and what their environment's going to be like, what's next for them.
Yep.
And so we want to spend time with our kids. So the purpose of our program being as extended as it is that they actually get to settle into camp. And the goal there is that they can explore and try new things, and then also find a place where they can fail successfully. We want them to be able to learn and grow at camp, but we also recognize that there are times when kids are going to stumble. And if we don't give them those opportunities in a safe environment where they have adult supportive relationships with people who want to help them, other peers that are their friends and want to support them, kids struggle later in life.
Yeah.
Long term, the purpose of Sherwood Forest is to help break the cycle of poverty for the kids that we serve, allow them to have the tools and the skills they need to raise themselves up and to change the life and trajectory of where they're going to be. And so we really want to spend time with them.
Well, I'm sure anybody who's listening is like, oh, this is how Sherwood Forest and Prevent+Ed intersects, because so much of what you're doing and your goals are what we do. You're just doing it in more of a camp environment, whereas we're in more of a classroom environment.
Exactly.
And both of them really need to work together, right?
Correct.
And you're concentrating your efforts on those kiddos who qualify for free and reduced, who might be coming from generational poverty and things like that, whereas we are focusing on all kids, but you're providing extra attention to those kiddos who are extra vulnerable.
Exactly. And part of our look at the world is that there are many kids who do well in a classroom environment, and there are many kids who would do better with a classroom without walls.
Totally.
And so coming to camp and being immersed in nature can be the change that those kids need to get away from maybe who they are at school. You know, when we talk and train our staff at the beginning of the summer, I talk with staff about how when you're at school, you kind of fit into a box, and then year after year, you're often with the same kids. So it's hard to change your box. If you're the class clown, you're the class clown forever. It doesn't matter how you change or how you grow.
That's right.
At camp, you come into an environment where our kids come from across the St. Louis region. You're not likely to be with kids who you go to school with. And so you have an opportunity to truly be who you want to be. And that
you
can
get to
open a
reinvent
world.
yourself.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you can just come in and, you know, you've always wanted to express yourself through art, and you want to go to the art barn and you want to do activities down there. You get to select your own activities while you're at camp. So you get to really explore and expand your own
So we're talking
interests.
like canoeing, arts and crafts, s'mores, like literally like a summer camp.
Traditional old-fashioned summer camp activities.
Oh.
You get to do archery. You get to go on hikes. You get to canoe on our lake. We have a 16-acre lake that kids can canoe on. We also take kids on the Ozark Trail and down in the region, and also on the Black River and the Current River to allow them to canoe there. It is amazing what kids can accomplish. So when kids are in the 6th grade, they enter our leadership training program. And then the first year of the program, 6th graders really focus on who they are as individuals. What are your individual skills and talents, and how do those interact with each other? Then in 7th grade, the idea is the kids accomplish a big goal by using their skills and talents combined with their cabin mates' skills and talents, their family at camp, their cabin group, to identify or to accomplish a big goal. So our Trek Wilderness campers do 100 miles in the summer.
What?
They travel about 25 miles hiking, and then they do another 75 miles or so on the river, depending on, you know, the skills, groups, and abilities. But the idea is to kind of break that boundary down, to recognize that you can go above and beyond. If you choose to go on our art trek track, then those kids put together and produce our camp play.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's amazing what they can do and how they can, you know, bring their skills and talents to life by costuming.
Sure.
They were so proud of themselves this year. They got all the tryouts done in a day, and the kids were over the top. They're like, look, we got through everybody. We have the casting done. We feel really good about this.
Wow.
It's just really powerful to see the kids find their skills and talents and to find their success. Once they're in the 8th grade, they get to go on trips around the state of Missouri to visit colleges and universities and do some community service.
I did not know that.
And
Cool.
and that gives them the opportunity to kind of expand out. What we found with many of our kids is if they are going to go into more of a traditional college route. Now, lots of our kids don't. They may go into the military, they may do a trade school, but if they're going to go to college, a lot of times they end up staying in Missouri.
Yeah.
It's where they're comfortable. It's where they know. And so we want to make sure they see schools around Missouri. But when they're in the 9th grade, we take them out of state. And there's a couple of reasons we do that. One is because they can go places like Memphis to see the National Civil Rights Museum.
Yep.
Things that are close enough to Missouri and to St. Louis but sometimes we don't take our own time to make those kind of trips. But also because there's a lot of reciprocity across the Midwest where kids can get in-state tuition by going to an out-of-state school.
Interesting.
So helping kids recognize that maybe I'm not limited to what's in this region, but I can go a little further to go to college and find the right place for me, whether it's a small school, a big school, those kind of things.
So I think the answer is yes, but I don't know. Do you have students who have gone through and they're just like, yay, Sherwood Forest, and then they come back as camp counselors?
Absolutely.
And that's really like where your bread and butter is, right?
Well, that's our hope because we want kids who have gone through all the way through our program. So we actually stick with our kids, though. So Quest is the heart of our program. That's the 1st through 9th grade program that's anchored in the residential summer camp.
Okay.
In 10th grade, through 5 years past high school graduation, our campers can come back. and work with us, and that's our Supports for Success program. The purpose behind that program is we found that from 9th grade to graduation from high school, 100% of our kids went on to graduate from high school.
Say that again.
So 100% of our leadership training program graduates who graduated in 9th grade go on to graduate from high school.
Whoa.
Where they stumbled, though, was getting into that training program or post-secondary education.
That transition is a hard one.
It is very challenging, especially when things might happen. So they would get into the first semester, things would be going great, and then their financial aid wouldn't come through. Or they wouldn't have housing, or other challenges and limitations would come. And if you are a first-generation college student, or even if you maybe have an aunt or uncle who went to college, they can't always help you make those transitions as you need to. And one of the other things we found is some of our kids wanted to go to, quote, popular places, popular schools that maybe didn't have the supports they needed to be, maybe they would have done fine if they were in a small school with a guidance counselor right with them, those kind of things. So we started the Supports for Success program in 2016. And so we're just getting our first group of kids ready to kind of graduate from college and move into the world. But what that provides us as well is that when they're 10th and 11th graders, they can come to work for us as counselors in training. So then we hire a specific staff member who's in charge of helping them transition. It's really hard to go from being the center of attention to giving the attention, as we all have had to do at some point. So really helping them make that transition to being the kids to being the counselors. And they are amazing with the kids. They have the most camp experience. They know the traditions. They know what's going to happen. They know how to prep the kids for that. Sometimes they do get cranky when we want to change things, but that is
because it wasn't their experience.
Exactly.
Right.
But that just speaks to how powerful their experience was and how much they want to pass that on to somebody else.
We have there's so many similarities in what you're saying with the summer camp experience, and with Teen Institute, which is Prevent+Ed's leadership camp. Definitely about the interns. When they come back, it's a whole different ballgame because Teen Institute was about them. Well, now it ain't about them.
Nope.
Right? It ain't about them.
Amazing, though, too.
And the other thing that really struck me when you first started talking was the transition out of camp.
Yes.
And so Teen Institute is a much shorter, so it's 3 nights and 4 days. But my first year when I went as a staff person, I was shocked. Like, you could have blown me over when I saw the reaction that the teenagers had to leaving.
Yes.
And during that time, they, are being told to go to sleep. They're getting up early. They're being encouraged to take showers. They're, living in a room with people they don't really know. We really discourage cell phones.
Right.
The first day, they're kind of cranky.
Oh,
right?
exactly.
Because they're not used to the structure.
Yes.
And then by day 4, they're crying.
Yes.
They don't want to leave. And I did not get it. This is my privileged self. I did not get it because when I was 15, you wouldn't have gotten me there anyway. Let's just be real.
In the first place.
Yeah, let's just be real. But I was like, why don't they want to go? And then, knowledge. I'm like, oh, they feel safety, psychological or physical safety. They know when their meals are coming. They know that they're going to have a comfortable bed. They feel a level of intimacy, not like weird intimacy, but they feel
they're
like
connected to each other.
Yep. Correct. And once that dawned on me, I'm like, everybody needs to experience this.
And it's amazing. It doesn't really matter. Summer camps that are 3 days can be just as impactful as an 8-week program because it's all about the positive youth development that's happening while you're there and building those friendships, connections with adults and connections with other kids.
Yes.
Which is really what kids often need to actually successfully transition out of poverty and out of situations, and making different choices is making those strong connections to people who can support them and who can be their social network when they graduate. One of the things you said was talking about how the kids transition in and transition out, one of my favorite things to watch is the first day at the bus stop, the kids who are crying because they don't want to get off on the bus, and the last day at the bus stops, the kids who we had to go hunt for because they didn't want to get on the bus. And they're crying because they're going back to their parents. And so it's the ups and downs that you see while they're at camp, and when they really make those connections to each other, to those friends. I love when I see kids trying to, on the last day, connect with those friends one last time and exchange those phone numbers and get to share, who they are. And then what I really love is the first day of the next session when they're literally running across the dining hall to each other. This year we did our 4th and 5th grade session overlapping our 6th through 9th grade session. So we had a group in 4th and 5th graders for 2 weeks. And then we had a day where we cleaned everything. And then we got a new group of 4th and 5th graders. And that first lunch in the dining hall, I was like, oh my gosh, this is chaos. And what it was literally all of these kids, siblings, friends, running up to the new 4th and 5th graders to give them hugs. And that just was so powerful to me because it was so critical to them to connect with these people who were just coming in the door. And I watched our 4th and 5th graders, and I just feel like they calmed. They were welcomed into this environment. They knew where they were going. They knew people wanted them there. And that was just super exciting.
I have 2 nieces that that are just I'm just obsessed with them. And they both, do some summer camps, which, by the way, I did not realize until I was kind of a step parent for several years. I did not realize how onerous and expensive and early the process of getting your kid enrolled in summer camps is. It starts in January.
Oh, at least we start in September.
And they ain't cheap.
No.
Okay. So at all. So I do want to talk about how you get the kids and how they're funded, but because I know you're not charging the individual kiddo, but I want to talk about that. But my one niece went to camp this summer, and she is very bright and very interested in science. And she got to go, she wrote and got interviewed or whatever and got accepted into the NASA space camp thing in Huntsville,
cool.
the robotics version. And she had been saving money because that was not cheap. And so that was all she was asking for the last birthday and Christmas and whatever. And she went, didn't call home one time, was stoked.
Was at camp.
Correct. Yeah. And when we were talking on the phone, I said, how was it? And the first thing she said to me was, I made friends that shared common interests. And
how powerful.
Right? And she's in the 6th grade. And I was thinking about that when you were talking about how summer camp is really a time for you to kind of do your own thing, figure out who you want to be. Are you into art? Are you into science? Are you into nature? And just because you're into one thing one summer doesn't mean you can't be interested in another thing another summer, right? But for her to be able to articulate and say, I found people who shared my common interests, I was like, oh my God.
She's just saying, I found my people.
Yes!
And that's the power of taking kids out of the natural, day-to-day that they are in and putting them into a different schedule. Like you said, they don't care that we say, hey, everybody has to be at breakfast at this time because they know where breakfast is coming from. They don't care that we sometimes, have to adjust their activity schedule. Sometimes they care a lot, but they get the opportunity to try things and find people who, like them, like to be outdoors, people that they can go hiking with, people that they can go canoeing with when they're adults. It's amazing the connection some of our kids have. Some of our CITs, I'm sorry, not our CITs, some of our leadership graduates this year who are still in Supports for Success but are more of college age, they've gotten an apartment together with people that they met at camp.
Stop it. I love that.
Who their people are, right?
I love that.
We had a staff member 2 years ago who actually lives in Kansas City and is now a nurse and came back over break just to hang out with some of her friends because when we had a few days off, she's like, I got to come to camp. And so that was her, way to reconnect with her people again and to spend some time with them. And it's just amazing that power of camp and to see that interaction and to see people come back after years and years of being away and be like, oh, this is where I lived. This is where I was.
They make movies about summer camp.
Exactly.
Right? Because of the experience that you have that is unlike anything else, really.
And, it's very difficult to recreate other places, but it's so applicable to things you're going to do later, right?
Right.
If you do go to college and you are put in a dorm room with somebody you don't know.
Totally. Yes.
Now, the kids you guys serve have had that experience before. They've had to figure out how to get along with somebody. They've had to negotiate where
they've had to negotiate a dining hall.
Yes. They've had to figure
hygiene.
out food. Right.
They have to figure out, like, okay, it is time for me to put on deodorant.
I need to take a shower.
Yeah, exactly.
I am kind of getting roady. And, sometimes we do just, everybody needs a pool party today.
Everybody in the
to
pool.
Get washed off.
Right.
So
I know that you are like most nonprofits. You do the grants and contracts and things like that. You do special events. I know you have a big gala every April, right?
That's correct. The Blue Jean Ball. It's April 26th this year. We're super excited.
It's amazing. I know you have a trivia night coming up too.
Yes.
How do families, school, how do kids get to you?
Yeah.
And then how do they don't pay at all, correct?
They do pay a little bit.
Okay.
Because we want some skin in the game.
Oh,
but we reach
I
out.
like that.
Yeah, you always need a little.
Yeah, we charge $50 for Teen Institute, but like if they really can't do it, we'll figure it out. But like we need a little.
We need to know they're going to show up.
Yes.
And we do something similar.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the first thing we do is a lot of our referrals are word of mouth. Somebody came and their friend wants to come with them, or their cousin wants to come now, or I came as a kid and I want my kids to go, different things like that, which is why only 80% of our kids qualify, because sometimes our alumni and other people want their kids to come back.
I understand.
Sometimes it's also kids who maybe just are a little outside of that qualifying realm, but doesn't mean they're living super pretty with $50 extra a month in their pocket. So those are kind of the main referrals we get. But we also work with schools, social workers, counselors, those kind of people to help us identify kids that you see that spark in. Who, this kid, if they could be outside running around instead of stuck in a chair, I think they would do really well. But at school, maybe they're not excelling the way you think they might, and they're kind of on that line. Then we work with their families to bring the kids in, make sure the parents know what's going on, make sure the kid wants to come to camp. That's like our biggest qualifier. You have to want to come.
Right. Because we're not forcing you to be here, okay?
We're not dragging you away from your home. And then our programs range in price. So our mini campers, which are first and second graders, their fee for camp is $35.
Okay.
Fourth, fifth, and sixth. Sorry, I cannot say that. Third, fourth, and fifth graders, their fee for camp is $50.
Okay.
And then the 6th through 9th graders, it's $75.
Okay.
But the purpose of that fee, like you said, is not because we want to charge the family money. That's chump change in our budget. We have 275 kids this summer. Even if they all paid $100, that would still be nothing in our budget.
Right.
Yeah. Our actual cost per camper is about $9,000 per kid. And so anyways, so we want them to come. We want them to participate. And so if they can't pay, we really don't care. What we want is that skin in the game to know that child is committed to being there. The family has made a commitment, and they'll show up at the bus stop. And from there, it's
showing up the bus stop. Oh my God. I cannot tell you how many times we've been at the bus stop for TI, and we're waiting, and then we're like, the bus has got to go.
We got to go.
But like your numbers you think you're going to have on day one are never the numbers you're going to have.
We have had, I've worked at Sherwood for 20 years now. We've had, I think, one year where every single kid showed up at the bus stop. But I will say, actually, this last session again, all but one showed up at the bus stop, which is
out
great.
Of here.
It really does come to that communication piece. How much are you talking to the family beforehand? What do you know? I mean, there's always going to be last minute emergencies. And there's things we can't predict. But typically we're running a wait list. And so we will call and say, like, hey, we did have a no-show. Yep. Are you interested in still showing up? And we'll try to get that kid to camp as soon as we can. It's not a guarantee that we can always pull somebody in off the wait list. And we don't want to pull a kid who hasn't had the chance to prep and feel prepared to be there.
Right.
At the same time, some kids are like, I'm packed, I'm ready, call me. Like, okay, you're on the list. I got you down. I will call you if we have an opening.
So did you go to camp?
When I was a kid, I actually lived in Ohio, and I went to just like church camps and week-long camps. And then when I was in college, I went to work for independent residential summer camp where kids did pay $1 bazillion to be there. It was an amazing experience, though. And then I had an opportunity when I moved to St. Louis.
That was in Illinois?
The camp I actually worked for was in Minnesota.
In Minnesota.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and then coming here, I had an opportunity. Actually, my former camp director, when I quit working for them, said she had a friend in Missouri, and I was already in Missouri at that point, but she had a friend who needed someone to come work with them. And I said, well, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to have some kids. I'm not going to go back to work right now. I'm just going to chill. And she's like, no, this is the right place for you. You need to apply. So I did, and I've been at Sherwood now for 20 years. But what a powerful opportunity to be able to provide this summer camp experience and this year-round programming for kids who otherwise couldn't afford it.
Right.
That can't pay the $10,000, $15,000 a year to have that traditional summer camp, to be able to come to Sherwood and just do what other kids are doing and go swimming in the pool. You know, there's things a little different about Sherwood than maybe some other summer camp programs. So we have a swimming pool at our camp because one of our other goals is that kids are water safe at all times. We want kids to feel comfortable about water, be able to go in, you know, not freak out, know what to do. First thing I always say is, remember, you can touch, just stand up. You know, that's the first goal. Stand up, you can do this. But so a couple years ago, our pool was leaking and we needed to do some work to it. And the board of directors at Sherwood Forest had this meeting, and they were like, well, let's just shallow up the pool, then it can all be a shallow end and the kids can get in and play and it'll be great. And our campers protested. They actually came to the board and said, no, you can't do that. And we're adults and we're like, well, why? Why shouldn't we do this? It would mean everybody can be in the pool. We can have a whole camp pool party. It'd be great. And the kids are like, but why would we then learn to swim? And we're like, fair point. Like, those are things we need to hear from our kids. They have a different perspective on our program, and we want that youth voice when we're making these decisions. And they're right. And so now our pool is 2 feet deep on one end, but goes all the way still down to 9 feet deep. And kids pass the swim test every summer to show their swimming skills. And it is a point of pride to be able to pass that swim test. And over the summer, kids will take the swim test 2, 3, 4 times sometimes before they pass.
You are describing me when I was a kid at Girl Scout camp. I had to take it multiple times. And back to my nieces, they always are bragging like, oh, I passed, then I'm this level and whatever. And I'm just like, oh my God, that was mortifying for me. I still cannot swim.
But that's okay.
I cannot swim, and I have to hold my nose. I wish I would have gone to a summer camp like Sherwood Forest.
But I bet you at least know to put your feet down.
Okay.
If you feel unsafe, you stand up.
Yes.
That is the first step.
Yes.
And that, whether anybody actually learns to swim or could do a race or anything else, what's important is that you're safe.
Right.
And that you know that in this water, I can react. I can get myself to a situation where I feel comfortable again. Like, yes, maybe I'm not comfortable right now, but I'm going to stand up, I'm going to walk to the edge, and I'm going to sit on the edge.
Do most of your kids, like you talked about the 80% free and reduced lunch, are most of your kiddos coming from like the city? And do they, meaning my question is, are they typically exposed to nature, or the first time when they come to Lesterville, are they like, what is this?
The what is this is much more common. So when you pull into our property down in Lesterville, Missouri, you actually have to drive through a cow field first.
Oh.
And so first they freak out because they're cows. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh my gosh, where am I going? This is crazy. I don't know where I am. So about 40% of our kids come from the city of St. Louis. The rest come from neighboring counties and areas. We're a United Way funded agency. And so our kids come from the United Way region is kind of our goal, that's where everybody's coming from. So everybody comes down to camp. But, with our year-round programming, one of the amazing things that we get to do is show kids all the green spaces in the St. Louis area.
Oh,
we
cool.
have a plethora of places where
we
kids
have
can
so
play
much green
and
space.
hike and do all of those things. And actually, some of that green space goes back to the founding of Sherwood Forest. We were actually founded out of the Parks and Playground Association that existed in 1918 to basically preserve green spaces in St. Louis as we developed as a community. That's what they wanted to do. So, but things that are in Forest Park and places like that, partnering with places like River City Outdoors, we are able to take kids to water areas and expose them to all the things they can actually do without leaving the city.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's an amazing opportunity that we don't think about as St. Louisans, and may sometimes even take advantage of the fact that we have a park to go to right up the street.
Mm-hmm.
Where I used to live, we had 3 parks within walking distance, and we just don't think about it the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think St. Louis has a lot of parks, and I don't think that I do think we take them for granted. And when you're living, let's say, like, you know, my nieces live in Baldwin. I mean, there are parks everywhere. Right.
Yeah.
And they live right by Castlewood, and they could go, but not everybody has that access or the transportation to those or whatever.
That's exactly what I was also going to say. And some of our kids live in neighborhoods where being outside isn't safe.
Yes.
And where they need to be inside, or they need to, you know, basically go from outside to a vehicle to where they're going. And they don't always have that transportation, but being able to show them, you know, 15 minutes away, here these things are, and here are opportunities and different places that you can get to, or that you can plan, you know, even a school trip for, or other things, just to help them experience some of the great things that are part of St. Louis. But definitely we do have those kids who haven't seen any kind of nature.
Yeah.
And, you know, that is one of the things we talk about before kids even come. What are the bugs like at camp?
Right.
We do have bugs. No questions asked.
No question. I mean, you're
snakes,
going, you're
we
in
do have
camp.
everything. Yeah.
You're going to have bugs.
You are in the wilderness. There are going to be things. We work really hard to talk to kids when they're at camp about the fact that we have actually moved into this environment. And so we are the visitors here, and we need to respect the critters and creatures that are all around us, because they help to make the ecosystem that we need. And so it's a great opportunity to direct STEM conversations in a different direction than often they're going at schools, because we're in the middle of nature. We can talk about an animal's footprint, an animal's habitat, the different plants that are around Missouri, the different edible plants that are in Missouri, things like that kids can really like put their eyes and fingers to and get dirty playing in those areas. We also play a fun game where kids like camouflage and look at all of the things around them and how they can become part of that environment as well.
Have you done adult summer camp?
Kind of. We have looked even more into doing it because we all want to do it ourselves.
Yeah, right? You're talking and I'm like, I want to do this.
I just want to go hang out and have fun. We had a great opportunity because we were actually in the dark spot for the eclipse this year. Down in Lesterville.
Cool.
So we had the opportunity to bring people back down to camp. And that was the biggest feedback we got. Like, this needs to happen more often.
Yeah,
we need to have camp open.
Adults need a minute
And
to reconnect with nature and to reconnect with ourselves and who we were when we were kids. Like, yeah.
Exactly. Play the games. We have a 45-foot climbing tower. Climb the Tango Tower. Go up to the top and see how far you can reach.
I mean, how great of a fundraiser would that be?
It's amazing, except it's 2 hours away and people don't always want to drive. So, but for those of you who would be willing to drive, we will set something up and see what we can do, because it is a lot of fun. It is amazing also to see adults try things that I watch kids succeed at very quickly.
Isn't that the truth?
And then we struggle as adults.
Yes.
And I'm like, man, I wish these kids could see us struggling and recognize that we don't all have it all together. Like, there are things we can't do. There are things we still can learn at any age.
Addie, I love you so much, because that when we're at TI, I'll say this in first person. When I'm at TI, Teen Institute, and I'm in a small group, or I'm working then with young people who I kind of continue to mentor after they leave camp and hopefully return as an intern or keep returning as an intern or a staff. Many times we have conversations about what it means to be a grown-up.
Yep.
And for me, I think the best kept secret is that grown-ups have no idea what the hell they are doing.
Ever. And we make it up as we go along.
Yes. And I don't think that when we were kids, any adults really told us, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing.
I still haven't figured it out.
Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to pay all these bills and do all these things. I don't know how I'm going to be in 3 places at once. I don't know how to swim. And it's really embarrassing to me that I have to hold my nose. And I'm really embarrassed to do X, Y, and Z. Like, I think our generation, meaning like our generation, is helping today's young people like understand that we do not have it all figured out and that we never can.
And we're never going to. It kind of normalizes the fact that there are always going to be questions.
Always.
And I always want to make this camp t-shirt. I haven't made it yet, but it's going to say, I've seen it, I've done it, or give me 5 minutes and I'll figure it out. I work at a summer camp. And because camp is that opportunity to say, nope, I don't know what to do in this situation, but give me a couple minutes. I work with an amazing team of people.
Yep.
And when we put our minds together, we can solve this problem. And it's similar to what we're trying to teach our teenagers. You know, when you're in our Trek program, you don't necessarily know what's going to happen on that trail. And as much as we prepare you for it and as much as we talk about it, as much as we practice, you don't know. There are wild hogs down there, and we've had wild hogs come into a campsite before. What? Like, how do you prepare kids for something like that?
Right.
Like, you can't. Now, we know it's happened now, so that's even more information we have going out in the field. But at the same time, there are things you're going to face in life, and you're just going to have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you rely on that social network that hopefully you've built by going to programs, going to activities, doing out-of-school time activities, building those people that you can connect with to say, oh, you know what? I don't know what to do, but I remember that Nicole mentioned one time that she had this similar, situation. Maybe I should call her. Maybe she has some thoughts for me. And that's what we do. We rely on each other.
And we do that in real time.
All the time.
Addie, you are one of my people. And I know Jenny is now going to rely on you for this too. And I will in my new role. But you are one of those people that when I'm like, I don't know how to do this. We didn't do a great job with X, or I'm being asked to do this. Have you done this before? And you do the same to me. And It is that mutual support, because as heads of organizations, we can't act like we know what's going on all the time. We are modeling even to our staff. Everything is figure outable. We're just going to use our resources, and we're going to phone a friend.
Exactly. That's what I call it too.
Yeah.
I say, I'm phoning a friend. Yeah, I need backup.
Right.
I don't, this is what I think I should do. These are the steps I think I should take. But even sometimes all my question is, what did I miss?
Right. What was my blind spot?
Yeah. What else should I be thinking about? What other questions should I be asking? What other things do I need to prepare for? Because I need people who are smarter than me. I need people who've had more experience than me. I need people who can help us think these things through.
Yes.
And that's just modeling for our kids that there's not one way to do everything.
Yes.
Or that there's this person always has the answer, because they don't. They're making it up as they go too.
And that you can figure it out and not know the answers, and it's okay. And it is okay.
And life will continue.
Yes.
And also, a lot of times somebody has done it before.
Yeah. Right.
You're trying to write a document and you're like,
yeah,
I don't know how to word this. I don't know what to say. Yeah, everything is a little different for every organization, every situation. But at the same time, you can build on what other people have done before you.
That's right.
And as long as you're willing to take their advice or to hear their thoughts, you can grow tremendously yourself and then provide some of that shared knowledge later for others. So it's amazing.
I am so incredibly grateful for you as a human. I mean, you have saved my butt a lot, but also just
I think that's a shared mutual thing here.
I feel like you're one of those people that I can look at in a room and we don't even have to say anything, but we know either we have no idea what's going on, or I got you, I have this figured out, or that's a really good question. I would love to know the answer to that.
Right. Or we need to explore that, because nobody knows the answer to that yet.
We should learn more about that. I'm so grateful for you as a peer, and everything that I have heard of Sherwood Forest, every kiddo that I know who has gone there, really just does nothing but speak the most highly of it. And
thank you.
I mean, and that's really true. That is just really true. And when I know Prevent+Ed staff got to work with your staff and do some mental health first aid, and they came back just oh my God, their staff is so great. They're just like us. And I was just
it's amazing how camp people are very similar to each other too. And
it's
people
true.
Who interact with kids and have the passion for helping kids and helping kids see their own potential and where they can go and what they can do. Kids talk about Sherwood as being a place where they have independence, but with responsibility.
Oh, I love that.
Expectations around that. And I'm sure you guys are doing the same thing in your teen institute. There's, you're on your own, you're living with somebody you don't know, but there's expectations of where you're going to be, when you're going to be there, and what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. And all of those things help to build kids who can think, who can solve problems, who can make decisions, who can figure things out. And, all of the skills. It's very interesting to me when I have staff members leave at the end of the summer and they're like, how do I write about this on my resume? And there's a lot of good language out there, but it's really hard to describe all the things you experienced during the summer and all the things you had to sort through and who you were and who you are now because of working with children and because of what you've done. it's just amazing too. And it's exciting to see how even our staff grow from the experience.
Yes.
It's really fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. And it's really funny to me too. Sometimes they come, our office manager this year is a seasonal office manager. He did grow up at camp with us. He was a CIT and now he's a full on grown up. And he keeps saying, yeah, you just sent me to do what?
Yeah.
This is not like a real job. And I'm like, no, this is your job. I need you to go I need you to order a bubble maker. I need you to,
we say all the time, like, can you believe we're getting paid to do this? Like, I just got paid to sing karaoke.
That's
like,
right.
I got paid to basically be the s'more maker. Like, that's cool.
And if you don't do it, the kids don't think it's okay to do it that way, too.
Right.
And so you have to be an adult, but at the same time able to play. And enjoy the time. And that is just the power of camp, the power of the programs that we can do with these kids, whether it's after school, whether it's in school, allowing them to have some free exploration, to really think about who they want to be, who they are. That's the power that we bring.
All right, I'm ready to go to camp.
Okay.
I'm ready to go to camp.
Cool.
And speaking of, you probably need to go back down there.
This was maybe not the best date to pick, but it was great because it worked out just fine. And this is wonderful to be here.
Go back down to camp, lather up in bug spray. Thank you so much for coming. If you like what you heard, and I know you did, and you now want to go to camp, please consider rating, reviewing, and subscribing to The Preventable. Check out their trivia night on October 5th. April 26th, they have their gala coming up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for chatting with me and all the support you and I really appreciate the support you provide for me.
Right back at you, friend. Right back at you. See you later.
Thanks for joining us at The Preventable, brought to you ad-free by Prevent+Ed. Prevent+Ed works to reduce or prevent the harms of alcohol and other drug use through education, intervention, and advocacy. Please visit their website at prevented.org. Like what you heard? Rate, review, and subscribe to stay up to date with what we are serving on The Preventable.